Please watch till the end as I have a very special announcement. Special. Alright. It's the EXE time. Let me just. Okay. I've returned to my roots. Anyways. Yeah, so a few months ago, a viewer asked me to review Mrs. Sega and Burnhog. This was under my Zero Fanes or my rewrite video. I'm not really sure which. See, I recently have been going back and watching my older EXE videos to try, get my interest in EXE sparked again. And I managed to spark it up again. So for today, I will be talking about two EXEs. I will review them like I did No More Innocence. And I remember reading the comments and someone thought I had a negativity bias against EXEs. I just found that funny. Okay, but to preface, I will say I read these stories months ago. I only actually skimmed over them as of recent. So I'm sorry if what I say feels like a rushed opinion, because I really just skimmed over them because I've already read them. So I'm mostly working off general memory and a bit of what I read. So I reread Mrs. Sega like almost fully for like right before I recorded. So anyways, we'll be starting with Mrs. Sega cause I found her story boring. Okay, firstly, she has a long story, which already pisses me off because I hate reading long stories. Now, don't get me wrong, that is no hate to the writer. I respect the writer and I respect your attention to try and put stories. But I have always personally felt like EXE stories should be more akin to campfire horror stories rather than novels. Though, again, if you want to write a novel, I'm not hating, I'm not knocking you down. I'm just saying that's a personal preference. Anyways, my issue with Mrs. Sega is, as one viewer mentioned to me, my predominant issue, as one viewer mentioned when I said I want to do EXE. Why is she possessing Sonic? Like, that's my main issue. She died in 1980. Hell, she even possessed two other characters before Sonic, for your information. I don't really give a shit who she possesses. That's the issue. Why is she possessing Sonic? I should know why she's possessing Sonic. What personal attachment did she have to Sonic? Like, that's genuinely a good question, because she died in 1980. She has no idea who Sonic is. She bears no personal attachment to him past using him as a vessel, which never makes sense to me about these EXEs. By the way, this is off script, because if you're using Sonic as a vessel, I expect you to at least bear some connection to Sonic. That's always been a complaint I've had, but I've never really voiced it because all the EXEs I've covered usually have some connection to Sonic. That's my main issue with her. Why is she possessing Sonic? My issue with Sonic.EXE is when you can take away the Sonic part and replace it with fucking Bubsy from Bubsy 3D. At that point, is it really an EXE? Because if you can take away Sonic from the EXE, why is it? It's an issue I have with All Father 2. The only EXE I think that actually does this correctly is Clocko Sonic, or as most people call him, Child of His Past. But that's mostly because he's an EXE based around themes rather than horror and story. Anyways, let me give you a very poorly worded and short explanation of her backstory. If you want a full long explanation, go watch the one in Oni's video. I think that's the guy, he recently made a video on her. But for a short skim through, a poor girl with a disabled brother and her family lives a relatively happy life, and she's an art student. Now, you see her happy life, just get rid of it. Hiroshima happens to her and her mother is paralyzed, and both her parents die when they're both underage. Yeah, because we just had to dump trauma. Again, I'm not knocking down the writer, I'm just pointing out that I found that funny. Anyway, the girl likes art, and that's actually one of the first things we learn about her. Now forget about it until around when she becomes a ghost, because she doesn't actually pursue an art job. She decides to get a corpo job. She is a living doormat while she's alive, and she's severely overworked. One thing I will credit the writer on though is they did a really good job, even though it was like a very short way of saying it. They did a really good job of explaining how she's a living doormat because like I'm not gonna lie, like this is very personal, but like at one point in my life I was actually like that. I used to be like that at one point in my life. Like people used to just like dump things on me because I like back then I was physically incapable of saying no. So people would just ask me to do stuff like dump clothes, blah blah blah. And like I'd get pissed, don't get me wrong, I'd rightfully get pissed, but like I was just physically incapable of saying no. So I'd say the writer does a very good job of explaining, even if it's just like 1 or 2 sentences. Anyway, she's a living doormat and she gets overworked. Her abusive husband is like abusive and her friends notice it, but none of them call it out, which is odd. Anyways, eventually in like 1980, she gets fed up and she asks for divorce. Her abusive husband beats her and breaks glass in her face. She is still alive while this happens, but he, instead of checking her breathing, instantly jumps to the conclusion that she's dead and calls his 3 friends to bury her illegally. Now, granted, even if she was alive, I don't know why. I don't know why I wrote that, because even if she was alive, why would he want her to be alive? Either way, he's going to jail. So yeah, anyways, she dies and now, you guessed it, she's a vengeful spirit. Yeah. Nuts. And as a vengeful spirit, she pretty much fucks around, possesses some other people, even Alex's kid. And eventually, at one point, she comes across Sonic, and that's just her favorite form, because I guess it is. That is my own personal take. Now, you want to know my full opinion on this story? I don't really like it. I don't really like her. Like, I'm not saying the story is bad, don't get me wrong. Especially for EXE content, this is like top tier. This is very good for EXE writing. I dislike it because the story feels bland to me. Like, sure, there are some differences between her and other vengeful spirit EXEs, but she still follows the same pattern. A doormat character gets killed by... Yeah, a doormat character gets kirked out in a back alley by a close family member or friend or partner, and they end up possessing Sonic. I can name 3 EXEs. In fact, when I read that part of the story, there was this one EXE that it reminded me of. I forgot the name of the EXE, but it was pretty much about a little girl who loved Sonic and her dad abused her and she died while playing the game. And she possessed Sonic and tortured her family, which is exactly what Godmother does, aka Mrs. Sega. She dies and then she now starts torturing people and bringing them. One of her first victims was her disabled brother who was in the hospital. Okay, now granted, I will not lie. Her saving her brother makes sense. I'll give her that, because like he was on like life support. Like he couldn't talk. He couldn't even talk. It was that bad. But her torturing her brother makes absolutely no sense. He's the only person in the story that did nothing wrong to her. I don't know why she's torturing him. Anyways, yeah. NicoisNXXT popularized. Why did I say it like that? NicoisNXXT popularized this format, and oh my X, it's so overused. It's kind of annoying to see now. Again, I'm not hating on Godmother for it because it's a simple and good format and the writer did something interesting and creative with it. I'm just saying, me personally, it doesn't work for me. For me personally, this story is mid. The reason I say it's mid is because it's not like some amazing EXE story that like instantly enamored and captured me because of how it originally was, like 2017X, who also got his format overused. And it's not some like dog shit story like JC the Hyenas. It's just, it's good, yes, it's good, but it's not my cup of tea, you feel me? That's my thoughts on it. It's good, but it's not it's not something I would bump my rocks to. What does bump your rocks to actually mean? I don't know if that's I don't know if that's what I'm meant to say in this situation, but that's what I'm gonna say. Anyways, on to our second guest star, Burnhog. Burnhog in his life was a psychopath that was ostracized as a kid. he found a girl that he married and she actually calmed him down. Now she dies in a brutal car crash because modern writers can not put trauma in characters. No, don't forget, guys, he lived a happy life. Then she got molested in a car crash. Not molested. Okay, that was poor phrasing. What I meant is she got run over in a car crash and she fucking died because motherfuckers can be happy in the big 2026. Anyways, yeah, he ends up possessing. After she dies, his death breaks him and he starts kirking and IDF in every single person he sees. And he's actually quite good at his job. But one night he gets caught because of a slip up and he commits Sayori by committing suicide and arsoning everyone in the bloody building. Anyways, Burnhog is cool as hell, I can't lie. Well, he is mostly carried by his design, which looks a lot like Hog from Hog and Scorched, if Hog was middle-aged and a bum. The guy is just a dick. Like from what we have from what we have of the character, he's just a dick. He's just an asshole, and I actually like that. He isn't some all-powerful entity like Godmother, because that all-powerful entity shtick gets severely boring. I'm not even gonna hold you. He's actually weaker than base Sonic. He just happens to have pyrokinesis, and because of his pyrokinesis, he can like kill Sonic's friends, etc., etc. Honestly, I actually like people. Honestly, he falls into the same issue with Godmother, though. Again, I prefer people like 2017 XR. You can't separate Sonic from the EXE. It's what I really dislike and what drags down both Mrs. Sega and Burnhog for me. Like, you could literally replace Sonic with Mario, and the story wouldn't change. Again, only EXE I like that does this is Child of His Past. Anyways, Burnhog is quite simple, and he's stuck. Yeah, that's pretty much it. He's stuck to the game. He can come into the real world, but if he stays in for too long, he just dies. And he can't actually do anything in the real world, so he has no reason to go there. Which, honestly, again, I feel is the best way to write an EXE. Like, they aren't some all-powerful god entity that reaches through the screen and kirks you the moment you talk back to them. He's just some guy. He's literally just a regular guy that went on a power trip. He's like Bear if Bear was possessing Sonic. I'm just noticing that a lot of you are probably have not watched Obsession. Anyways, Burnhog is like a 9 out of 10. He's a very bland but fun read. Mrs. Sega is 6 out of 10. If you read her, she'd probably be 8 out of 10, but I personally just don't like her. Very basic. She's like JCX in like, I mean goal. I don't mean as in like the character. She's like JCX's Sonic.EXE, where she wants like world domination and like the fusion of two worlds, and Allfather, where she wants to make her world a sort of heaven, and Needle Mouse because she is a vengeful spirit. I mean, she is also known as Godmother. If the writing is on the wall when the Allfather, like the Allfather inspiration is on the wall. I'm not like don't even trip, Wire. Anyways, that's just my opinion on this. Both the creators did a very good job at making these EXEs. And I know sometimes it looks like I struggle to respect these EXE creators, but they did a good job, and I really respect you for writing, because as Sonic would probably say, the hardest part of this is the hardest part is even trying. It doesn't matter if you did it good or bad, or like your work isn't bound to stick with everybody. Shit, I like Sonic.06. Don't be like, I'm not the person to be talking about Pinnacle of Peace. I like Sonic colors. I find colors unironically funny. I'm not even the person that should be talking on whether something is good or not, writing wise. But anyways, yeah, both writers did a good job. That's my personal opinion on where both these EXEs are. Again, go study the EXEs for yourself and support the creators, and like and subscribe, join my Discord, and goodbye. I came to make an announcement. 6 months ago, January 23, you guys try to stop me. You guys try to chain me down. You guys tried. Remember what happened 6 months ago. I made a video in the middle of my finals about Honey the cat because there were allegations circling around me about how I grew into honey. Of course, I had to deny such allegations, but the court hearing in my comment section said I'm guilty. But you know what time it is, court hearing? It's 6 months. And you know what time that court hearing said I have to go without talking to my wife? 6 months.